excited to have this conversation with you about the 7 habits of highly effective people. My name is Russ Sorrells, and I'm with CapEx Sales. We go live on this IndustryCast at 11:30 every Wednesday on a mission to help our customers improve and grow and just share information in any way that we can that's going to, again, add value to our customers' lives, to their careers. That's what we want to do every day. Well, every Wednesday. That's what we want to do every day. But every Wednesday when we go live on this IndustryCast, that is our mission, is to pour into our customers and serve. So just a little bit of who we are and what we're all about. So ATC Automation is a company we represent. So CapEx Sales, we represent companies in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. ATC Automation, 85% of the business that they do is with repeat customers. We're so proud to have the opportunity to represent ATC. We have for 20 plus years now. A wonderful company, wonderful people. Cincinnati Test Systems is the largest leak test company in the world. Pressure decay, mass flow, helium mass spec. If you need leak testing, custom equipment, standard instrumentation, that is what CTS is all about. Duquesne Plastic Joining, anything plastic joining. They are a global and diverse welding company. So hot plate welding, laser welding, vibration welding, spin welding, ultrasonic welding, all plastic welding. That's what they do. Symetric is a high-speed in-process test and data management company focused on manufacturing and taking that manufacturing data and turning it into useful information to help improve our processes. And then Keller Technologies right here in Fort Mill, South Carolina, they have a comprehensive line of industrial wet and dry air filtration. All right, that's our only marketing through this. So now we're going to talk about the 7 habits of highly effective people. Again, I'm so excited to have this conversation. This book literally changed my life when I was 22 years old. I was a manufacturing engineer at Cummins Engine Company, and they said, "Hey, Russ, you want to take this 7 habits of highly effective people training class?" And there was a training class they put on. I think it was about 12 weeks long. It was a game changer for me. And you got a set of cassettes. You remember those cassettes where you actually had to plug them in and they rewound and you fast forwarded. But it's a tape. For those of you that don't know, it's this little cassette. You put it in a device and it plays back to you, as opposed to an MP3, which it's difficult to visualize. So anyway, I had those cassettes and I went through all of these different activities that were in that program, and it really was transformational. So hopefully this is helpful for you. If you have not read the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I highly encourage you to take the time to do it. It is a game changer. So here's the challenge. So Stephen Covey shares how we see the world is really through our own perceptions. And I like to call that our story, right? We create our own story. We're always creating the story. We're telling ourselves stories. So that means that if we want to change our life or the situations in our lives, we have to change the stories, or we have to start by learning how to change our perceptions. And that's really what the 7 habits of highly effective people is about, is getting to know ourselves better. And then through getting to know ourselves better, applying some strategy to directing our life in a way in which it's going to be more fulfilling. So each of these habits builds on the previous habits. So habits 1 through 3, we're going to focus on the self and shifting from dependence to independence. And then 4 through 6 are going to focus on teamwork, communication, collaboration, interdependence. Those are the dynamics of relationships, which really, the foundation of life are the relationships that we have in our lives. So, how can we continue to improve and grow those relationships in a way that is going to make our lives more meaningful, more fulfilling? That's what we want. That's how we live our full potential. The next is the last is habit 7, which is really about sharpening the saw, the continuous improvement, the growth associated with taking all these habits and applying them on a regular basis, and what worked, what didn't work, and then renewing and applying that in a new way. All right, so here are the 7 habits. Number 1 is be proactive. Number 2, begin with the end in mind. Number 3, put first things first. Number 4, think win-win. Number 5, seek first to understand before being understood. That's something we all could use more of, especially I know my wife would really like that if I did that more. So there's always opportunity for growth in applying these. Synergize, working with others, that collaboration we talked about, and then sharpening the saw. So let's jump right in. The be proactive. So habit number one, be proactive. So reactive people live in a passive state. So believing that life is happening to them as opposed to them happening to life, them actualizing their lives. So the reactive person is often in fight or flight mode. They're very much in victim mode. So we've got a world that is built on that right now. That's very cultural at the moment. We've got a lot of that going on. So we want to be more proactive in our lives, and so proactive people understand that they have agency. So agency is a fancy word for control. So proactive people understand that they have control in their lives, and they have the ability to choose how they're going to respond to any given stimulus. Viktor Frankl said that we have the ability to choose between something that happens, so stimulus and response. So there's a window of time between the stimulus and the response that we take, and in that is where our maturity lies. So that's where our agency is. That's where our control is, because if we learn to control our response to the stimulus in our lives, we're going to have very different outcomes, and we're going to have better relationships. It's going to be less chaotic. We're going to be less angry and upset. We're going to suffer a lot less as well. But that is some mental control, and it's really challenging. But if we're proactive in our learning and developing that self-control, that is going to help us in all aspects of our lives. So self-awareness is what Stephen Covey is talking about here. So creating the foundation to be proactive and really owning our choices, owning our actions, owning the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis. And then also be proactive in building our circle of influence. So I love in Stephen Covey's book here, where he talks about, he gives a description of really what, if you can touch it. So this is your circle of influence, is something that if you can touch it, then consider that to be a part of your circle of influence. So there are family members, there are people that you work with, that you impact their lives. Our goal, or it doesn't have to be a goal, but one of the missions that I personally have is to increase my circle of influence, increase my ability to positively impact and influence others by increasing my skills. And that takes proactive learning and study and focus on how can I be and deliver more value to the people that matter most in my life, or that circle of influence that he's talking about there. So we must be proactive in growing our circle of influence. Habit number two, begin with the end in mind. I love this one. This is where the real transformation and change came to me in my life. When I came to this, there's an exercise in here where we write our own eulogy. When I wrote my eulogy, this was back in 1991. I would say probably 1991. I wrote my eulogy, and I realized that I was not living consistent with how I wanted to be remembered, and it was embarrassing. It was I broke down. I cried. I was upset that when I realized that I was not living congruent with how I wanted to be remembered, and I immediately changed, and I said, I am going to be the friend that every friend would like to have. I'm going to be there for my friends. I'm going to be there for my family. I'm going to be there for the people that matter most in my life. And I made that change. And I, hopefully the people that were most impacted, my friends and family, they would say that I went from being a selfish, all about me. It's, that's all I cared about was what was best for me, to really be more focused on, how can I impact the lives of the people that matter most to me in a positive way? How can I show up for them every time, without without fail, if I say I'm going to be there, have that responsibility of being there. And that's where I've really focused a lot of my life on. But that is thanks to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and the eulogy exercise that Stephen Covey has as practice. So creating a vision for our ideal future gives us the framework for what values and decisions will help us get there, right? So values are that's the foundation on which we want to build our lives: integrity, trust, truth. Those are, flexibility, confidence, courage. Those are some values that if we apply in our lives on a day-to-day basis are going to help us progress toward our goals. And that's what he's really talking about here is once we know what our ideal future is, we're able to, and we've got that foundation of those values, we can then decide what actions are necessary for us to move those forward. So we need to get very clear about what matters in our lives and why it matters. So be sure that your choices are your own and not based on the expectations or standards of others. That's one of the challenges that we have. Many, I know many adults that have this because their parents had expectations that they were going to be an attorney, or they were going to be a doctor, or that they were going to be something that they didn't necessarily want to be, but because they wanted to make their parents happy, that's what they pursued. That's the vocation that they chose and pursued. But the reality is they're miserable because that's not really who they are. That's not the life that they wanted to lead. And oftentimes, with some reflection and better understanding, they see that they're pursuing a life that's not truly theirs, and then they can make that change and adjust. So which it says easy does hard for sure. So if we're, again, focused on that future, focused on the end. So the first step to setting this, or for the first step to moving this forward, is establishing goals. We need to establish goals because that's, it tells us, why the goals we set are so important. So when we have that vision for our future, we can then establish the goals that are going to help us accomplish and achieve that vision that is in the future. So as I mentioned, the eulogy exercise. So at the end of your life, who will be there and how will you be remembered? And I physically wrote that out, and I actually have it in my planner. I have the eulogy that I created in my planner. So I have my own personal planner here. And so it's the legacy. How will my family remember me? How will my friends remember me? How will my coworkers and business partners remember me? And then the last question is, am I living consistent with how I want them to remember me today? That's the legacy that I'm talking about. It's not about things. It's not about, what did I amass in life, but it's about whose lives did I touch, or whose lives were we able to touch in a positive way and make a difference. That's the stuff and staff of life that really matters. That's number 3, put first things first. Prioritize your actions based on what is important each day. So that is, identifying your goals with that vision of the future. And then what do we need to do on a day-to-day basis to continue to actualize our ideal future? So we want to prioritize what really is going to matter, what's really going to move the needle in us progressing toward our goals and us living that fulfilled, meaningful life that we all desire. So this is the action step in accomplishing goals, as I mentioned. So it takes a significant amount of discipline, which is not a dirty word. It's not the D word. But it is a challenge. I teach this stuff. I share it. I've studied it, and I still struggle. Every morning I want to get up and do this, and this. And oftentimes I do this, but then I don't do this, and this. But I have the best of intentions. So discipline is a challenge, but we need to often give ourselves grace in the process as well, because when we don't follow through on something we've committed to for ourselves, we often can get down on ourselves and just say, "Oh, heck with it." But I want to encourage you to give yourself grace and just get back on the horse the next day. That's what we all have to do. We miss it, get back on. We miss it, get back on. So there is a matrix, and I don't know if you probably can't see this very well, but let's think of this matrix that I'm getting ready to describe here. So is the urgent, unimportant, and important versus not important matrix. So we need to manage our time based on what is urgent and important. Urgent and important matters are what will move the needle toward actualizing our better future. But oftentimes we end up focused on the urgent but not important. So we perceive them to be important. And so that's where we're applying our effort. We're focusing on these urgent matters that are often someone else's issues that we have made our issues that we go out there to try to solve. And sometimes that could be just, it ends up being busy work. We feel like we're doing things that matter. We feel like we are, moving ourselves toward our goals and objectives. But the reality is, it's just a distraction, and it feels good, and it feels like we're doing good, but it's not progressing us toward, again, that better future that we desire. Then there's the not urgent, not important, and these are the things that we shouldn't even do. So these are trivial matters that can lead to irresponsibility. And then the not urgent but important. This is where we should spend most of our time. I think I misspoke on the urgent versus important, but not urgent, important. These are the areas of our life, the challenges, the objectives that we can work on that will make and help us sustain a better future for the long term. Urgent and important, is not sustainable, but not urgent and important allows us to use our creativity to solve those challenges, solve those problems, and then build our better future, better relationships as a result. All right, number 5, think win-win. So win-win situations are mutually beneficial for each party, right? So this is relationship stuff. It's about collaboration, getting together. This is how we begin interdependent relationships, which is how Stephen Covey refers to our relationships, these win-win relationships, as interdependent. So we must believe that there's enough to go around. I call this making the pie bigger as opposed to trying to get our slice of pie, right? So oftentimes we're trying to get a bigger piece of the pie, when in reality, it is a lot more fun, and a lot more fun for everyone if we can just figure out a way to make the pie bigger. Then we can remove that selfishness and envy, the greed that goes along with trying to get our slice, as opposed to, again, adding more value and making the pie bigger for everyone involved. So win-win is focusing on meeting the needs of others as well as our own, right? That's almost goes without saying, but so we want to create that balance, that give and take in our relationships, so that we create those collaborative and beautiful relationships. Next, we want to seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I can tell you from my own experience, my personal experience, that this was the most challenging for me, is learning to be present, learning to hear and listen to what another person is saying, as opposed to just waiting for my opportunity to talk, which is a really, especially if you're a talker, a challenge for us all to do, right? To step back. I remember when I first worked to actualize this step in my life, especially in my sales career, I would go in and I would not say anything. I would just ask a question and then be quiet. And it was everything I could do to keep from filling the void of silence. But in order for us to seek that understanding, it's really important that we learn to live in that silence, understand what that silence means. Is there emotional tension in that silence? Is there confusion? Have we asked? Are we trying to cross a chasm that can't be crossed given our connection? So how do we then find the language, the words to make a bridge from one side to the other That's that seeking first to understand before being understood aspect. Okay. So seek to truly understand the person's perspective, right? So this is called empathy, understanding and empathizing with another person, being able to put ourselves in another person's shoes. So most of us listen, I mentioned this, in preparation to respond to what's being said, but empathetic listening is, we're presence, we're compassionate, we have presence, we're compassionate, and it will definitely lead to trust. So that's what we want to think of when we think of empathetic listening, is that it's going to lead to trust between two people. The first step, this first step here will create the foundation for better communication and interaction in all of our relationships. Okay, we're rolling right through here. Number 6 is synergize. So this sets the stage for creative possibilities. When we are open to different perspectives, we can improve the quality of ideas and actions. So this is about taking diverse background, diverse ideas, people that aren't the same as us, and especially I'm talking in work environments right now, and coming up with collaborative solutions that you otherwise, if we just get around the same people all the time, if we just collaborate with people that have seen the same stuff for the last 20 years, then there's not going to be a great deal of creativity. We're not going to synergize a creative solution. We're going to improve possibly on what has already been done in the past, but we're not going to come up with a totally new and breakout solution for the needs that need to be met in that situation. So this is a vital step to building relationships, and it's really in our careers, in our manufacturing careers, and and speaking a lot to manufacturing engineers and the people that we work with there, that if we want to improve our manufacturing environment, our equipment, our relationships, we need to form an independence with the people that we work with in maintenance, the people that we work with in quality, the people that we work with in operations, supervision, management. So that's the synergy that we can develop in our organizations. And that's what's going to take our organizations to the next level, is when we're synergizing together to build on the value that we're already delivering as a company. This is the most important one. So we've learned all of them, right? So the top 6, how do we sharpen the saw? How do we continue to learn? How do we continue to grow our ability, our capacity to implement all 6 of these 7 habits that we talk about? So effective people are dedicated to renewing themselves, right? So we talk about leaders are readers. I heard a statistic the other day, I think, was it only 20, maybe this is high, but 23% of college graduates read another book in their life, something like that. Only 3% of the population actually has a library card. So sharpening the saw is about continually growing, continually improving, continuing to improve our ability and knowledge to interface, to be able to find the words, to be able to come up with creative ideas because we've continued to learn, grow, think, and create. So the 4 dimensions of human nature that we must continuously work on here. Physical. So we got to strive to ongoing physical improvement, health being an important aspect, because if you don't have your health, what else matters, right? That's why really that should be number 1 right there, is physical. So spiritual, we must reinforce our commitments to the value system on which we've built our lives. So whatever that value system, that spiritual belief system that we utilize, we must continue to reinforce that because that's going to be a guiding principle throughout our lives. The mental aspect. This is so important. I talk about this with my children over and over again, and it's tough for 14-year-olds to get this concept, but we create all of our own suffering. We create it. It's all right here. Our suffering is because we are attached to a desired outcome. And as a result of that attachment, we suffer when the outcome is not consistent with what we wanted. We wanted to have this happen when we thought about our beach vacation. It rained the entire week. Well, that can lead to misery unless we try to turn lemons into lemonade. So having that mental toughness, that mental ability, that dexterity to roll with it and make the changes necessary, very, very important that we continue to grow. Use meditation, journaling, conversation. Sometimes we need therapists and psychologists to converse with to help us increase our mental awareness and our ability and our dexterity. And then the social and emotional. This is, relationships, as I mentioned, fundamental aspect of building a life worth living, of living our full potential, is pouring into the relationships. And again, I appreciate each of you allowing me the opportunity to pour into you today on this industry cast, because this is, selfishly, it's fulfilling for me. I want to share this information to help everyone that is in my circle of influence grow and improve. And through improved relationships, we're all going to be better. So that wraps up the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Thank you so much for your attention today. So next week, tomorrow, we are going to be talking about the fundamentals of leak testing. Gordon Spleet from Cincinnati Test Systems is going to be on, and we're going to be having a conversation with him. It's 2-hour training. We're going to talk about, again, the fundamentals of leak testing, pressure decay, mass flow, differential pressure decay, helium. We'll touch on helium a little bit as well, tracer gas technologies. So if you have not signed up, you can go to, you just let me know, russ@capexsales.com or vicky@capexsales.com, and we would be glad to get you signed up for that course or class that's coming on tomorrow. I think we have about 20 people signed up. And we also have, for the next 2 months, we're also doing the same fundamentals of leak testing. So if you miss tomorrow's, still stay connected, and we'll get you signed up for the April or May fundamentals of leak testing training. And then our next industry cast, we're going to have Shunk on to have some conversation with them. So thank you. Always want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve you. You make all the difference. If it wasn't for you, our company doesn't exist. So we are grateful for the opportunity to serve our customers. If you need, so here's the team: Matt Matheny, Western North Carolina and South Carolina. Chris Mullins, he's right there in Eastern North Carolina and Virginia. And then you've got me. I'm supporting these guys and the team to help them grow and improve and answer some of the questions that come up through 20 years of experience. So everyone have an awesome day.